Okay, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Mate Farkas, and I will present you this topic today, how to synchronize the data from your on-premise system to Azure. So our agenda is these topics, not too much, but hopefully I have enough time to present everything what I wanted. So a couple words about myself. I'm a database and a data platform consultant from Hungary. Yes, Hungary is that small red dot on the map. It's a small country in the middle of Europe. I'm working with SQL Server and databases more than 15 years. And I'm working on administration tasks, database development, infrastructure design, and my main profession is performance tuning of SQL Server and queries in SQL Server. Okay, so data synchronization, what is that? Actually, we call data synchronization is a simple transferring the data from a source system to a target system. That's a general description. And when we call it as synchronization, it is a continuous process. So it's not just a one-time copying over the data from a source to a target, but it's a continuous transfer. The synchronization can be bidirectional, but in case of databases, it has many challenges and problems. So I have never seen bidirectional data synchronization which was perfect. So in general, we talk about data synchronization for only one way, not the both way. So from a source to a target system and not vice versa. In this case, we also have some challenges. For example, we always need an initial data set, what we need to copy over from the source to the target one time. And after that, we have to find the exact point in time where we have the first data or data change, which is not in the target yet, because that point is our synchronization process starting point. And we have to keep this process always running. So we have to detect changes in the source system as quick as possible, and then transfer these data changes to the target also as fast as possible. So that's the data synchronization, but why do we need that? So why do we want to synchronize the data? For example, imagine a situation where you want to use a service in Azure, for example, a Power BI report server, or a simple reporting services, or any analytic technology which needs data and as real-time data as it's possible. So, for example, if you want to publish a Power BI report in Power BI Embedded or Power BI Report Server, then maybe you want to display the most up-to-date data on your report. And this requires an always up-to-date data set in Azure. Actually, there are different technologies to achieve this. For example, there is a data gateway what can transfer the data to the cloud on demand. If a report needs some data, then it just connects to this on-premise data gateway and can pull up the data from the on-premise server. But sometimes it's too slow, or it doesn't work effectively because imagine that you can have 100 million rows database, and if you want to make a report, and it can happen that the query cannot be executed perfectly or exactly on the server side, on-premise side. So data needs to be pulled, all the data needs to be pulled from the on-premise system to Azure to make the analysis or make the report. So these are the reasons why we need to synchronize the data and continuously synchronize the data near real time from the on-premise database to the Azure database. These solutions sometimes can be used for disaster recovery purposes, but you have to keep in mind that it can lead to possible data losses. But sometimes it can work. But the main purpose of this technology is for scalability, to redirect your on-premise workloads. So this can use your it can be used for your on-premise applications running read-only queries on the Azure database. Okay, so how we do that? Imagine this environment where we work. Here we have an on-premise SQL Server. We have some applications and users, and we have the Azure environment. In the on-prem side, we have some users which uses applications, and they produces data in the SQL Server. And in Azure, we have different technologies to manage and store data. For example, we can have SQL Server on virtual machines. We can have Azure SQL Managed Instances or simple Azure SQL databases. Actually, these three topics covers the whole Microsoft data platform in the cloud. So the infrastructure as a service, the platform as a service, or software as a service for database solutions. There are a couple more database solutions, Cosmos DB and Synapse Analytics, but these technologies can be listed under one of these three topics, one of these three areas. Okay, so the user uses the applications. They create data or change data on the on-premise database in our on-premise SQL Server, and we can synchronize this data, for example, into another SQL Server in a virtual machine which is operated in Azure. Another way is to synchronize the data to a managed instance, which is a relatively new technology in Azure. And finally, we have a simple SQL database, and we also can synchronize the data to this area. Okay, so that would be the data synchronization, and I would like to present you all the three ways, but actually I have some difficulties and I had some issues yesterday and today with the Azure Managed Instance. I don't know what happened, but the VPN connection doesn't work for me. I have tried it many times before. Sometimes it worked, sometimes not. But today, actually, it doesn't work. So I will present you in theory and as much as I can, but I think it will not work perfectly. Okay, let's start with the first topic. On the top of the screen, you can see a possible usage of the data in Azure. For example, you have a reporting or analytics service, and it uses the real-time data from any of these sources. But I will not describe this topic today, so I will not show your reporting. I will not show a reporting or any analytics solution, just the data synchronization to these targets, these three targets. So the first target is a SQL Server on a virtual machine. How to do that? There are many ways to do that. I will show you one method for this. So I already prepared the virtual machines and on-premise SQL servers for this scenario. In on-prem, we have a server, a host called on-prem SQL. It runs Windows Server 2019, and it uses SQL Server 2019 Developer Edition. It can be Enterprise Edition, or Windows can be Enterprise Edition, but it's not necessary. Okay, so this technology, what I want to present you is clusterless scale-out availability group. So actually, it's an availability group, but it's a simplified one, because if you already try to build up an availability group, then you have to know that it's not so easy, because availability group needs a cluster service. A cluster service needs a domain accounts, Windows authentication, domain name server, and domain controller. So it's not so easy to build up, but this method, this solution is a simplified one, and it can be used perfectly for these purposes to synchronize the data. So there are some prerequisite steps. I prepared these virtual machines. You can see them here. This is one of them, on-prem SQL. And here is another one. I can show you here. This is another one. This is in Azure. But I can present this on my Azure portal. So the first prerequisite is that we have to use the same server, same SQL Server version on both sides. We can use SQL Server 16, 17, but I will present this with 19, with the latest cumulative update. And of course, you can use the next version of the SQL Server. Okay, Windows Server 2016 or 19 Enterprise or Data Center Edition, where I will present this, and the newest, not the newest, a newer version of SQL Server Management Studio. So the preparation is I have to create the same service account on both sides, so on source and target. Now the source is on-prem SQL and the target is Azure SQL. So I go to the Azure on-prem SQL, and I just go to the administrative tools, computer management, and I just simply create a new user. Let's call it SQL Sync. And the password is not so complicated, but you can define anything here. Not change, never expire. And this user must be added to the group of administrators. Yes, here it is. And of course, I had to do the same on another side. So in SQL, I also do this here quickly. new user, SQL sync. The password is the same. Necessary for this solution to have the same, exactly the same user account with exactly the same password. But the two users should not be in the same workgroup or domain or Active Directory. I also add this to administrate. Okay. So the next step is to create this registry entry if it doesn't exist. A local account token filter policy equals 1. This is needed because we will not use service built-in service accounts, but we will use a simple user. So on each server, I have to go to registry, and this can be found here. Local machine, software, Microsoft, Windows, current version, policy system, and under this, we have a local account token filter policy. If you don't have this, then you can simply create, it's a double word, a D word property, and it should be set to 1. Okay, and this must be done on both sides. So in the registry, I already set up this prerequisite. Okay, then I have to create a certificate on both sides and exchange these two certificates between the two sides, because the authentication and the permissions will be given based on these certificates. To create these certificates, I need a script in SQL Server. So I just connect to my local SQL Server here, on-prem SQL. I have already 3 databases in on-prem. For the 3 methods, I will present the 3 methods based on these 3 databases. So I just open a new connection on master, and I need this script where I create 2 stored procedures. These stored procedures can be downloaded because it is provided by Microsoft, and it can be used to create certificates. I cannot create now the certificate because I have to set up some other points in the list before. So now I have 2 procedures in master database: create endpoint certificate and install endpoint certificate. But this will create a certificate and save it to this folder. And another command will import the certificate on another side from the given folder. Okay, so if I try to execute this, it will fail, I think. No, it works. Yeah, it is created here. You can see that it is created a certificate here in the C temp folder. Fine. Now let's go. I copy this script, the whole script, and I go to another machine here. I connect to the local server, which is Azure SQL. I open a new connection, and I create these 2 procedures here. This is that part. Must be created in the master database. And I also try to create a certificate here. Yeah, it's also done. If I go to here, it is created Now, okay, now I copy this certificate to on-prem server, which is this one here, and I copy the on-prem certificate into Azure here. So actually, I exchanged the two certificates. Now I try to import this certificate here in Azure. You can see I'm in Azure. I have to import the certificate from on-prem SQL. Okay, the login already exists, but I try to remove it. Now, and that is principal owns the certificate. Okay, now it's here. I think the certificate is imported, but I can check it here in the master database, security certificates, and it's here. You can see that it is imported in Azure. Now let's go back to on-prem and do the same for the Azure certificate here. Now the login already exists, but it doesn't matter if the certificate is imported into the master database. Yeah, it's there. Fine. Okay, let's move on. We need to set the availability group feature in Configuration Manager. So I open the Configuration Manager in on-prem, and I open the properties of the SQL Server service, and I turn on Enable Always on Availability Groups. I turn on and click OK. The changes will be applied after a restart, so I can restart the SQL Server here. While it's restarting, I go to the Azure and do the same thing here. Here I open the SQL Server and turn on Always on Availability Group. Okay, now it's done. Oh, sorry, I have to restart the service here. Okay, set the primary DNS suffix for both sides. Actually, that's nothing else, just the name of the host server, and it can be done here in about, or you can reach this interface other way. So here you can change the computer name. Actually, I don't want to change the computer name because Azure SQL is fine for me, but I want to set the primary DNS suffix. And let's give Azure SQL, then it's mycompany.com. That's the suffix. Okay. I need to restart the server for this. Not yet. Okay, and do the same thing in on-prem. So system in the settings, not this one, not rename this PC because it just renames. But here we have a system info, and here we have a change in the name. And I want to use the on-prem SQL, that's fine for me, but the primary DNS suffix would be another company.net. I give different DNS suffixes because I want to prove that the two sides should not be in the same domain or under the same forest or under the same domain. So, but both servers needs to have these primary DNS suffixes. Now I need to register the DNS name and fully qualified domain name of the servers, the opposite servers for each node. So in on-prem network, I need to register this DNS, but now I just simplify this option. I just register the name in the hosts file. So I open the hosts file and I put here this one, the fully qualified domain name, and without the domain. And what is the IP address? I have to go to the Azure portal. Here is my virtual machine, and here is the public IP address. This is what I need. Copy, and I put the IP address here and here. Okay. Let's test it. I try to connect to the Azure SQL Database from here. It doesn't work yet. Let's ping Azure SQL. No, it doesn't work yet. Why? Run as administrator, open, hosts. Azure SQL, it's there. Command ping. Okay. I don't know why it doesn't work, because it should. Okay, let's change the order. So FQDN should go the last. Okay. It doesn't work yet. Okay, I go to Azure SQL. I try to do the same thing. Run as administrator, open the hosts file, and put here this on-prem. And without the DNS. What is the IP? The IP is my local IP address, which is routed into my local network. So I'm doing this from home, and I'm using my public IP address, and I route it with my router, the network traffic from the internet to this virtual machine. Not this one, but this one, the on-prem. Okay. Now let's restart both machines, because it's required. Close everything and restart this one. Yeah, it's a planned restart. And I restart Azure SQL also. I don't want to update and restart. Other. Okay. So hopefully, if I can go back to administrator, if I go back to the virtual machine, then they will see each other. Okay, I just start the management studio. It's a bit slow on this virtual machine. Let's reconnect to the Azure. Oops. Where is my fit to remote desktop or not? MSTSC. It's not here. Let's try again. Connect. What's the situation in on-prem? Local, and just try to join or connect to Azure SQL. It doesn't work. I don't know why. And now I cannot connect to my Azure virtual machine, remote desktop. Try to open from the downloads this way. Display. It just doesn't connect. And this also. mycompany.com. I don't know what happened. It runs. RDP, public IP address. Now it looks better. Okay. Maybe it was not restarted yet because of the upgrades. Okay. So we registered the DNS name and fqdn, build up VPN connection between. So we would need a VPN connection between the two sides, or you can just simply route the internet traffic, what I did. So we need to network address translation for the port, the TCP for port 1433 and 5022 in on-prem environment. And these ports should be enabled in the firewall. And if I look, I just simply disable the firewall to not have any issues. So you can see that it's turned off, but you can simply add these rules to the firewall. And what about this one? I don't know why, but it doesn't want to work. However, I already set up this. Maybe it should be a different way. Aha, now it's better. I was the stupid as always. So now I can connect to the Azure SQL from on-premise. And if I go back to the Azure, then I have to edit the hosts also. And I change the order here. And now I try to connect to SQL Server, to on-prem SQL Server here. Okay, these are the preparation, and now we can do the setup finally. The setup should be started on the on-prem server. I just open the connection, open a new connection on on-prem, and I have a script for this. This is it. After we created and imported the certificates, then actually we can simply create the availability group. This is the script for it. So we will have two replicas of this availability group, but the most important setting is here, cluster type equals none. This means that this availability group will not use cluster service or failover cluster at all. On this database, this will be the availability group name. Okay, let's see how it works. Okay, it's done. Let's see the availability groups here. It's done. Databases is here. The Azure SQL doesn't work yet. Okay, let's see what happened in Azure SQL. I try to connect to on-prem SQL. So I can connect from the Azure virtual server to my on-prem SQL server this way. Here I can see the databases. I can see here the availability group, but if I connect here, system admin, sys system admin. The database is not here yet because I have to give a permission for that. It's in the script what I prepared. So after I created this availability group, then I just have to set this permission. AG data sync with class type equals none. It takes some time, but it should not take too much time. Other company. It's accessible. Let's go back to on-prem. Yeah. Secondary app is not connected. Disconnected. How can I reconnect? Oh, this keyboard. Okay, now it should work. Not synchronizing. If you create availability group, then you can set up this seeding mode equals automatic. This can transfer the initial data set from SQL, from the on-premise server to Azure. So from source side to the target side. And you don't need to create backup, copy over the backup, restore the backup. So this automatic seeding does all the things what we need. So what else we have? So Azure, it's still running. I don't know why. Verify the local availability replica is in the correct state. So alter availability group because it doesn't exist. It should work. And finally, the two sides should be in synchronized state. And after that, we can make any data changes on on-prem side, and it is immediately appear on Azure side on the replica. So if I want to remove this, I just delete. Let's try to recreate again. Data sync 1. Data sync 1. on-prem SQL, othercompany.net, mycompany.com. So you can see that it's synchronized state, but it's not true yet because the replicas are not connected. Let's try again on the Azure side. I think I accidentally skipped a step. I haven't set up my SQL sync user, what I have created in the beginning. That's the problem. Do the same here. Okay. So restart the service. Not yet. Okay, now it's running and it uses this account. It's done here also. Okay. Now let's connect to the server back. And on-prem. Synchronized. Let me try again. Once more and done. I cannot kill this connection. Okay, let's open the method 1 again. And create the availability group. Okay, it's here. Okay, and now go to Azure SQL and give the permission, hopefully. I could check the seeding process by this query, but there is no seeding yet. But I thought. Enable TCP traffic in firewalls on both sides. It can access the on-prem SQL, can access the local. The local can access Azure SQL. I'm a bit upset because it doesn't work, but it should work this way. And the main principle of this solution is that we don't need a cluster we can use two independent SQL servers and can connect each other with this technology. Still working. I don't know why. So my time is over, I think. So I just show you in theory what are the other methods. This was the first one. This is the second one when we set up the managed link from on-prem SQL Server to a managed instance. And there is a third one, which is the most interesting, I think, where we set up a transactional replication. This one. It's a regular transactional replication from the SQL Server to a simple Azure SQL database. So an Azure SQL database can be a subscriber of a transactional replication. And this is also a good way to synchronize and real-time synchronize the data from the on-prem system to Azure.
Actually, Mate, you have about 15 more minutes here if you need it.
Okay, but it doesn't work. I don't know why. Thank you. I try to do my best. It's running here. Everything is set up what we need. So I don't know why it doesn't work. Here are the steps. Availability group feature is turned on. I remember that I turned on, but let's double check. Yeah, it's turned on here. And it's turned on here. Everything is fine. Yeah, I'm sure I'm the only one who cannot present the thing what I want. Let's double check the primary DNS suffix. Another or other. I found the cause. Yeah. Okay, I now drop this thing and recreate. Okay. Sorry, I can't find the reason, so I'm not sure what's the problem. Have you ever this kind of presenter who failed?
Many times it happens. It's all good. Like Barbara said, we get the basic idea of what you're trying for here. I think that's truly what I like seeing, just the idea of what we're doing for. We all get the basic idea of what we're trying for. So if you just want to wrap up, I think that'll be perfect.
I think you've not failed. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
So I think when you interchange the IPs and the DNS, because the IP was supposed to come first, I think you only changed on one side, because I initially wanted to point that one out as to be the cause. Maybe you only change the one on premise and not on the Azure.
So what do you?
So this is on premise, right?
Yes.
So that's okay. Can you look at maybe the configurations for the IPs on Azure?
On the portal, you mean?
Yes.
Actually, I have an IP address here. Or what do you want to see?
Okay. Because this is how I usually look at it. Because there need to be a handshake between the on-premise and the portal itself. So how does the portal now interact with what we have on premise? Because we've given the IPs for the portal to the on-premise. Don't we need to give the IP for the on-premise server, the public IP for the on-premise server to the to the cloud portal?
Actually, what I have done is just port forwarded of the required ports on in my router. So I forwarded this port and this one all to my on-prem local IP address, which is this one, common IP config. You see, this is the local IP address of this virtual machine, and it is forwarded to. So, but it should work anyway, because if I log into the here to the Azure virtual machine, I can simply connect to the on-premise SQL Server without any issue. So operation has been brought back. Check SQL Server. AG, that is thing.
By the way, this is a great presentation, Matty. You have done a great job for putting this together. Sometimes things happen, and that happened to me multiple times. Actually, I love when that happened. You know why? We have a chance to get the attendees involved because while presenting, we're learning from the attendees as well. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've done an amazing work, Matty, just for your information.
No, but thank you. It's a pleasure to me. Thank you.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm telling you, it is amazing.
Okay. I don't know what should I say, but it just doesn't work.
Just for information, Matty, it's as Kevin told you early, if you want to wipe up, feel free to do that because Kevin mentioned it to you. Because sometimes if the issue it's not coming from your end, you're using your public IP, correct?
Mm-hmm.
It might be a communication between your local computer and your provider. You understand?
Yeah, I understand.
If the communication cannot go through, it doesn't matter how well prepared you are, your demo will still fail you. And then sometimes it's hard to pinpoint that. And you have done a great job just for your information.
Yeah, but I have tried this many times, so this is the most frustrating part. So
Yeah, I get it. When you're frustrated, it's very hard to go through the demos. Yep, it doesn't quite work. Yep. It's really if you just want to wrap up on your presentation, I think that'll be perfectly fine. Just remind us what all you've shown. I think I'll be more than happy with this. I truly enjoy everything that I've seen. Different ways to get data across from servers, which is the idea.
yeah. I just tried everything. Where's that? So okay, that's all.